and then they let the residents help them carve out just to like help with their skills and stuff. But it was really, really nice to see the relationships building, and yeah.
That's lovely. I have to say, my daughter has just gotten an allotment, and she brought this enormous pumpkin for me to take to the nursery. And I was just thinking, oh my goodness, how are we going to do it? And it's just been such bad luck that we got COVID and we haven't been able to do it together. So that must have been such fun. I don't think that pumpkin is going to last till next year. So then I hope they've done something with it. Thank you, Brianne. Bella.
Yes, I was just thinking about not school children as well, like smaller ones, but there's a high school in East Kilbride that is involved with a local church, and they have in 6th year the students there, they take part in a befriending project with people from the church, but they match each student with the person according to either their career choice when they leave school or something they have in common. So it's a really nice one because the relationships that are formed, the young person goes and meets with that person for an hour once a week, all through the term. And there's some really lovely stories shared from it. And last year it made me laugh because they brought one of the ladies online to speak with the pupils, because they turned it into an online or a telephone project during COVID, and the older lady who came on had been a nursing sister, and she had given advice to a young woman on nursing. So it's just really, it just really makes me feel quite happy and warm inside, thinking about this older lady with all her skills that she was able to give to this younger woman who was just starting out her career. And you could see that they built up a relationship, and they were smiling and giggling, and they got on really well. So
I just think that's lovely. Yes, thank you, Alison. That actually is lovely. And I mean, it kind of leads into the idea that actually this is a constant relationship, that these are, it's not just a one-off, that these relationships build because you're seeing each other all the time. And it's the obviously the most apparent benefit of co-location is actually to have those constant relationships, to have them building up the opportunity, not even just once a week, but it could even be every day of coming together. I'm going to share one story that makes me smile, and it connects a little bit, Bella, with what you're doing, because again, it was a learning. When we first opened, there was an awful lot of interest, because it just happened that there was the program, the film Care Home for 4-year-olds happened to come out, that series, which everybody liked very much. It was really nice and made you smile, made you feel good. It came out in 2017. It happened that was the year that Apples and Honey Nightingale opened. We had hoped to open earlier, but for various reasons it was delayed, and maybe that was a good thing, Bashert, as I'd say, because there was so much interest that we actually had a lot of people coming to see us, and a TV crew came along and wanted to just film some of the interactions, and we were doing some baking. Apples and Honey Nightingale is a Jewish setting. It's a Jewish earlier setting within the grounds of a Jewish care home. The care home is Jewish. The articles are for traditional Jews to come and to live a more traditional life. The nursery is open to everybody. It just happens that we do a lot of the things we do are built around the Jewish year, which is quite interesting, and it gives us a great structure. Every week we eat a special Shabbat bread, which is called challah. Some people call it challah, and it's a plaited loaf, and it's white bread, and it was a luxury bread that everybody would keep for that special time of the week. So the children, with some of their grand friends, were sitting actually in the nursery, not even in the home. Usually we're in the home, which has more space. with some of our friends, and we were busy making the dough, and I was explaining how you put it together and how we plait it and so on. And suddenly Rini turns around and said, "You're doing it all wrong. We used to make this every week. When I was growing up, we used to make extra, and we used to make it at home, and we used to take it to the communal ovens." This was in the East End of London. "And they'd all be baked together. We made 2 extra for the synagogue every week, and you're doing it wrong." And she showed us. So unfortunately for me, this is all recorded, that I'm the one that got it wrong. Exactly how they used to make it every week, and how they would ensure that when the dough stretched, that they would paint it again and again to keep the glaze with egg, to stop that stretching, to make it still beautiful and shiny. And it was just such a lovely moment for me that she was teaching not just the children, she was teaching me, she was teaching the person who was actually recording this. And it was bringing back the memories of when she had been with her sisters. There were 4 sisters that grew up together in this very close and very poor community in the East End, where they had to share the ovens together with all the other families around the square. And I can't help but smile whenever I think about it. And Rini is still with us. She can't hear a thing, but she comes every week to our Shabbat celebrations. So I wanted just to share that with you. Anyway, now to the presentation. Let me see how good I am at this. What I'm going to do, because I can't see when I do this, and I will every now and then stop sharing so that I can actually see who's there and see myself again. Here we are. Let's see. All right. Please do ask. Oh, I can see you. Oh, that's because I'm not on the slideshow yet. I'll say hello now. Okay. And so there we are. Share. Here's a picture of Rini making the challah dough with one of our children. And there are various other activities happening in the background, but you can see the intensity there. And one of the benefits for us here is that was them actually mixing the dough together. It could rise, and then they were both on site to actually bake the dough into bread, to shape it, and to actually bake our special loaves to be eaten later in the day at Shabbat on the Friday celebrations when we welcome the Sabbath. So what I would like, I hope by the end of our discussions, we shall have a good understanding of the meaning of co-location in intergenerational work, appreciate the benefits of being co-located, identify some of the challenges, and share how we could apply our understanding to our current work. And I'm hoping that by the end, you will be able to say that we have managed to achieve all that. So what I thought I'd do first was to actually tell you a little bit about why and how Apples and Honey Nightingale started.
Judith, can I just interrupt just for a second? We're only seeing your first page, or at least I'm only seeing your first page. They're not flicking through.
Aren't they?
No.
Okay, stop share and let's try again. Right, thank you for telling me.
Is that the same with everybody else? Were you only just seeing the,
Right, well that's, so. Every time there's always a different challenge, isn't there? Something else always has to go wrong. So let me try again and see if it works. Share screen.
maybe an idea just to go with that screen there. Judith, just leave it where it is just now.
Okay.
Because we're on the right one now.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter that you can see everything on the side. That's fine, because I can actually see you, which is much nicer now if we do it this way. Okay, so what I wanted to do really was I'll just tell you how we started, because again, it's a lovely story, and it is the stories that bring it alive. One of the joys of intergenerational work is the fact that you're working with other people, that it's actually really very fulfilling, as I think you've discovered, Amaya, which is why you want to get involved and have come on this course. And you can see that the benefits that it can bring to so many people, and it's not just the people that are participating. I do see that it can make societal change. When I first opened my small nursery back in 1991, we actually included in that visits to a care home, because it was important to us that the children would have a holistic education. They would have the experience of being with all generations and being actually aware of the cycle of life and where they fitted in with it. And it was Nightingale Hammerston that we visited, from occasional visits, which were much more performance linked, because that's the way one did it, we saw that there was people started doing things together. People wanted to actually get to know each other better, and we worked with the activities team and had came more often and varied the program. We did gardening together, we would actually cook together, we'd do craft together. And one day we were just doing a craft session and then going to have some sandwiches together afterwards, and one little girl, a little Evie, arrived late with her mum. We didn't notice. She just made a beeline for one of the ladies that was sitting down at a table, and they started to do some craft activity together. Then we had our sandwiches, had our orange squash, and off we went home. The next day, I was given a letter. I was handed a letter by one of the it had arrived actually in the post. And it said to little Evie. So I gave this letter to the mother when she came to collect her, and she opened the letter, and inside there was a card. And so here we have a picture. Can you see? This is little Evie holding her card, and the card said, "Dear Evie, I'm sending you a photo of me because I used to be called Evie. You are the nice young Evie, and I loved meeting you the other day at Nightingale House. It was lovely talking to you. I hope you will visit me again very soon." And then there was a picture of Eve when she was little Evie all those years ago. And here you have Evie visiting Eve, opening the special treasure basket that actually Eve had made for her to put her little treasures. And Evie had come with her picture and her present for Eve. They're having a hug together. And that relationship continued, because not only was Evie and Eve were the same first name, it turned out they even had the same surname. And I just heard this story and I just said, this is ridiculous. Why are we coming occasionally? Why aren't we seeing each other every day? And that's when I approached the home and asked them if we could actually open in their grounds, in a building that I had my eye on. This building. It took them a while to actually realize it was the right building for us. And that's how it all started. So I wanted to share that story with you. And now we move on. So what does co-location mean? Well, co-location is the act of placing multiple, sometimes related entities within a single location. But intergenerational co-location, that is different. It's not just sharing space for convenience. It's using the proximity to develop strong personal relationships through regular, planned and spontaneous interactions. It's well planned and structured with intention. It must be of mutual and equal benefit. Now, does anybody, I hope that anybody challenge that? Does anybody want to say anything more about it? Do you feel that it's kind of encapsulated it? So it's nice being able to see your faces, to be honest. So there we are. So Apples and Honey Nightingale is not the only, 1 minute, let me just, there is a lot more about co-location in module 2. Some of you might have moved on to module 2 of the course already, some may not of ICIP, but there is a lot more about co-location. But here I just wanted to encapsulate the essence of it. So the Apples and Honey Nightingale was, or is, the first intentional co-located intergenerational nursery, co-located in a care home in England, and that was founded with a vision for having daily intergenerational programs, but it's not the only one that exists. So what I wanted to tell you about is one that I visited when I was asked to speak in Singapore. It's called St. Joseph's Care Home, and it became a co-located intergenerational home for very different reasons to mine. I don't know if you know that in Singapore, the land is of a premium. It is rather a small place, and nobody owns land other than the state, which is the king there. And they are very, very careful. And it happened that St. Joseph's, which is a Catholic care home, was had a beautiful space, and its lease was coming to an end, and it was told that it didn't justify having as much room as that, and that it would actually have to give up its space. And so they were very creative, and they looked at how they could actually keep it and develop it so that they could keep that amount of space. And they decided to have a nursery on site, and they did a big rebuild where they actually worked with the early years setting, so that they could actually keep the site. And I went to visit it, and it's very, very different. It's very lovely, and they actually do work with a very close team with their therapists, with their medical staff, with the care home staff and the early years staff to actually deliver their intergenerational program. But it is quite different to the kind of program that you might find in a country that actually has more space and that actually has a different approach to aging. Singapore also is, I think, the country in the world that has the largest proportion of elderly to young children. Does anyone else know any more about that? No, that is, and I was very fortunate because I was taken to lots of examples of how they're trying to nurture and benefit from their seniors, as they call them, rather than actually making their seniors be like a burden to them, and rather than not feeling included in society. The other example that I wanted to mention is the Belong Intergenerational Village. And I'll read you a quote here from their general manager, Peter Butler. And what he said is that, working with Ready Generations, we have developed a bespoke intergenerational curriculum called the Mirrored Curriculum Framework, which is a relational model based around the principles of social pedagogy. Examples include planned experiences such as storytelling, drama, art, music, dance, and yoga, alongside opportunities to build relationships through shared walks, meal times, and just sitting together to talk and listen to each other. And actually, I looked at that and I thought, he's articulated very nicely what I think would be in any intergenerational programs that you were trying to do. But the difference, I think, between Belong Village and Apples and Honey Nightingale is also that they have built a very strong link with a research establishment, with a university, and they're actually limiting their numbers according to, so that they can follow and have a more of a research bent. That's as I understand it. Appleton Honey Nightingale is somewhat different. We are a little bit more, we have evolved, if I can put it that way. When we wanted to open, we have actually joined a very well-established setting. We've squatted, I could say. Nightingale Hammerson is a care home that was founded in 1906. It's very fixed in its ways. It's very, very lucky. It has a beautiful site within inner London, which you wouldn't normally have had for a care home. And so in some ways, I feel like I'm the cat that got the cream, getting such a beautiful site. And that's because when it opened, it must have been countryside. It was an amalgamation of lots of small charities that had been set up when there was an influx of refugees, I could call them, from Eastern Europe after the pogroms of Russia and that area. And many Jews came to England, and they needed to look after each other, after they're poor, after they're needy, after they're ill, and after they're elderly. And they set up lots of little charities. And somebody came to Lord Wandsworth and said, "You've got enough houses, got this lovely home in Wandsworth. Why don't we actually, you can give that to these charities and create one all-embracing charity for the Jews, elderly Jews in London." And that's when it was founded. It has gradually evolved, it has grown. It is a charity, it has its own articles, and I would say 50–60% of the residents are funded by the state, and the rest are state funded, pay for themselves, or self-funding. And because it gives a very rich curriculum, it's actually, it's been around a long time, it has a lot of bequests and legacies, so that it's able, through fundraising and through the bequests, to be able to support those residents who actually can't pay for themselves independently. It did mean, though, that we had to persuade quite a lot of the very well-established staff that we weren't coming to taking advantage of the home, but rather wanted to work in partnership for the benefit for the residents. And so it is a challenge, and has been a challenge. I wanted to give you an example of something that we did, just to stop me talking quite well. I will be talking, but at least you've got something nice to look at, of something that we did, which gives an example of how you can have a holistic approach of the benefits. So, here we are making flowers. Last June, at the time of the Queen's Jubilee, we had a festival called the Festival of Shavuot, which is a harvest festival and is a flower festival as well. It's a time when synagogues would be decorated with flowers, when you actually would take in baskets of fruit, and you would really brighten up. It's a way of celebrating one of the 3 harvest festivals that come in the year. At the same time, it's also the theme of that festival is a time of the giving of the Torah, the 10 Commandments, the Jewish Bible, to the Jewish people when they were wandering in the desert. And so you have that covenant, that relationship. We talk about a marriage between God and the children of Israel, and it was like a contract there. And we linked it with that contract, that commitment that the Queen had given when she came to the throne, to be the Queen and to serve her people, the British people. And so we interviewed some of the residents who had actually met the Queen. We did a card for the Queen together, which we decorated with flowers. We use the ideas of relationship and of commitment that, and the relationship between the children and the residents. And then we use the flowers to decorate the synagogue, because even though the children couldn't come to the service of Shavuot, because it's a Jewish holiday, therefore the nursery is closed and we're all on holiday, so there weren't any children there, they still were present for their grandfriends in their service, in the synagogue, when they went in to have their Shavuot service. So you can see how easy it is, being co-located, that you can actually draw together so many strands and celebrate so many things together. Does anybody wants to say anything, or should I just carry on? I'll carry on, okay? So I wanted to also talk through about the fact that the intergenerational programs and practices alone are not enough. We have to optimize the use of space and places. So here we were able to be in the activities hub. We were able to actually be in the synagogue. We would actually be able to use different spaces. And there are so many things you can do to actually make something like the care home into an intergenerational space, which they may not otherwise have thought of. So, for example, let me see where I've stuck these. Here we are. We have, in the home, we have storybooks next to sofas. And we have high chairs in the cafe. It's not just wheelchairs. The sofas, as you come in, have got children's storybooks, as well as magazines, as well as books with large print, as well as audio books, so that it can be an inclusive space. There's not just a park for wheelchairs, there's a buggy park for buggies, so that when people come in, they will know that this is an inclusive place. This is a space where you can actually have all age groups feeling welcome. Not only inside the disabled toilets, we also have the changing mats. We have next door to them child-sized toilets, just to ensure that everybody from all ages feels that this is a place that they are also welcome to. There are so many other ways you can look at it. So I've been very fortunate, this is an aside, that we've had partnerships also with people who are doing masters or research into design and technology, and looking at creating the kind of equipment that would make it easy for the different generations to come together. And we had an amazing young woman came, and she has designed the prototype. She's looking for funding. So if anyone knows of anyone with funding, of a chair, a comfortable chair, but with an attachment. And you can put the attachment has steps like a ladder, so a child could sit on that, could climb up. They can sit at the same level as the grandfriend, without putting any pressure on them, because, but still be able to share a book. There will be a strap to keep the child safe so that they're not likely to fall off. And you can actually be reading stories together. You can actually look at books together safely. And those kind of tools, that kind of equipment and resource is something that it would be fantastic to be able to get sponsorship for and to have room for, because trying to find space in any of these homes for all the kinds of equipment that is needed for care, as Amaya, you will know, working in a care facility, and as other people who've tried these things will know, it isn't easy. I mean, we've had budded reading for quite a while, and we put a child on one of their comfy chairs, and we have another child, you have a grandfriend sitting in the chair, and they can't touch the book. The books, the arms of the armchairs are so wide that you can't see the book together. So do you prop a child onto the arm of a chair? Is it safe? Is it not safe? Will they fall onto one of their grandfriends? These are all questions that have to be thought about, and it is very difficult. And so to have young creative people thinking about equipment that can be used to stimulate these engagements. It's very, very exciting. And it's another reason why I kind of feel we need a centre we can refer people, you know, to people who can help them and support them. Anyway, so let's see where I've probably lost my track completely, but at least we'll try and get on there. Anyway, so just to give you some examples of what we're able to do because we are co-located on the same site as Nightingale Care Home, and that we can build on the programs and relationships in both plans and spontaneous ways, because we are a blended community. This is the baby and toddler group. Pre-COVID, and in fact, before we opened, in order to trial our program, to see what works, what doesn't work, to learn so much from it. Another example that I learned, I had such, you know, a set view on how coming together was going to be. And I learned so much just from having the baby and toddler group before we opened fully. And so, for example, we had the children in the center, and we put a larger equipment round the edge and the so that they would face our grandfriends who were sitting round the edges. But then what would happen is that we found that the little cooker or the doll's house was actually a barrier, and children are used to turning. They're so much more flexible, they're creative. And if we actually had put, when we moved the cooker and we moved the little doll's house and we moved the box of toys actually into the center, the children would take what they wanted and they would hand the cup of tea to their friend. They would actually turn around and they would actually create a story with their grandfriends, and there was no barrier between them. But it was only by doing it that actually I could see what was going on and what we needed. And here, as you can see, we don't need any climbing frames for the children to learn to stand. They can actually use the wheelchair as their climbing frame to help them stand up. And the joy on Margie's face. I mean, she actually said, I might have the quote later, that coming to the group had given her a reason to live. Her daughter actually used to come sometimes just to join us. And she said that she believes that having this group and having the intergenerational program and the nursery extended her mother's life and definitely extended the good quality of her life there. As you can see, we can have seat belts, the right size for both little ones and for old ones. We used to go, this is pre-COVID, obviously, going to the farm together. Shirley always said that she was only there to support her husband, but she got so much more joy out of it herself. Every week we welcome Shabbat. I showed you the picture of making the challah dough. Here we have a lady, a grandfriend who never had children of her own, and for her, Shabbat gave her a structure. She had quite advanced dementia, and it helped her. Every week she knew where she was. It brought back memories. And she's sitting here with one of the care staff, with the child of the care staff, who's actually one of the children at the nursery, and with the rabbinic advisor. You can see what it means to her. I'm putting my hand to my chest as well. Every week, a different child and a different grandfriend, a different resident will lead Shabbat, will be our Shabbat host. Here we have our budded reading. There's this lady who actually she only died a month ago, and she just was lovely with the children, but quite strict. And she was looking at one of these books with another child, and they were just some beginner reading. On the whole, as you can see here, because of the age group, our books here do not have words. what we want is the children to develop their language, their communication, to talk about what they can see, to predict what might happen next. And it was really lovely because the lady who's facing them has lost her sight, but she could hear the story. She was still involved. She was still able to be part of it. Anyway, we had one of the books had a few words, and the child was just talking, reading the book. And Elizabeth said, "How do you know that's happening?" And the child just carried on regardless. She said, "How do you know? You're cheating," and tapped her on the hand. Nigel loved doing these pair games, maths here. As I say, he would pretend to get it wrong so that children could have another go. It makes them the teachers. It gives purpose. It gives them an understanding that they matter and that we need them. And one of the lovely things about having our grandfriends so involved is that we gain from their wisdom when it comes to the evaluations we do. We ask them what they have noticed because they see things from a different perspective and they have time. They have time to note these things down and to remember them and to think about it, which many of, the staff, it's just very difficult to have time to actually make all those records and to actually get those stories and evaluations. And what I forgot to say was that the average age of entry into Nightingale Hammerson is 92 years. This is not a residential home. This is not supported living. It is very much a care home. It is a centre of excellence for end-of-life care and for dementia care. Here we are, Live Music Now, this is part of a research project into the benefits. And this gentleman here, he has special needs, as well as having various health issues. He has always had special needs, but his father was a big band leader. So he knows all the music that's going. He can sing the songs and he remembers them, and he's always asking for it. And to be part of a music research project is a real joy. And there you can see them both experimenting on the harp together. And here we have the three-way relationship. You have Anne, you have her carer, and you have the baby. And there's just so much joy in that picture. I just love it. And also what is so lovely here is that celebration of the diversity of the care home and the nursery. In the garden, Anne came to visit us and she joined in with the games outside. Obviously, we have to have a fence, we have to have some railings to separate the children's play area from the rest of the garden, but it doesn't have to be a solid fence. It can still be one where people can see what's happening from outside and coming inside, but also where they can themselves join in. So we have special benches. We actually got benches. They do have to be suitable and passed by the therapist team at Nightingale, so that we can use them. I'm going to race through. I can just see how late it's getting. Sorry. It's also getting very dark here. So, but we actually have benches in the gardens, and the gates are shut, but they're not locked, so that people can enter. And as you can see, when we were doing our cleaning, Martha here decided it was time to wash Anne's wheelchair. We have a beehive at Nightingale. And so there's Big Phil and there's Little Phil. And together they look after the beehive, we look after the beehives. And we've planted a honeybee garden. Together we've been extracting honey. And we, at our Jewish New Year, which is a time when we give sweet gifts for a sweet new year, our grandfriends gave us little pots of honey, and the children gathered crab apples from the garden and made crab apple jelly and gave them as gifts to their grandfriends. Here again in the garden, painting together, that total focus. And oops, I don't know if you can see, let me move myself screen, there we are. This is what Margie said. I love it right from the start. This is the highlight of my week. I'm going to race through this because it's so late, but during COVID, we actually managed to keep the relationships going throughout. Initially, we sent cards and photos and emails, and there were phone calls, and the parents themselves were very, very determined that we should keep the relationships going. And they said they wanted to make a video. And what they did was they created a video in each of their homes, but nobody could meet, dancing and waving. And we managed to get one of the care staff to just take a couple of videos of the residents doing it too. And we have on our website a video of them all dancing and residents waving to each other, so that they wouldn't forget each other for those 2 months when nobody was allowed to come together. And then afterwards, we were able to be outside, interacting through windows and socially distanced and through glass doors. And we did manage to keep our weekly program reduced, but we came together at least once a week, sometimes twice, sometimes 3 times a week, but always socially distanced and always safe. Here you can see through the glass door, this is the nursing dementia. You can't see our friends very well there through there, which is a good thing, because most of them, we don't have permission for photos because their loved ones don't really want them to be seen when they have such advanced dementia. But you can still see that there is relationship. There you can see the balloons, okay? Lois, we have our balloons, and they use, here we had glass doors between us, and we're doing parallel learning, making beehives out of clay, all part of our Bees and Honeys project there. And then finally, we were able to come back together again, okay? And so benefits, I've only just got onto the benefits. Financial, we have, you'll get a copy of you'll be able to see this. I'm very happy to share the slides. Financially, we can share costs. We don't have travel expenses. There was some research done about co-locating and non-co-location in Australia, and the evidence was that it was very much cheaper to be able to be on the same site and then to have to bus people into each other's spaces. We can share staffing. We do need a lot of volunteers, but you don't need to have the same number of staff because of the journeys. I'm just going to put my light on. Hold on a moment. There we are. Right. Logistical, the communication, spontaneity is so much easier. You can just bump into somebody if you want to change, if you need to change. So like, for example, now with people getting sick, we've just had such issues, we can actually communicate with each other very much more quickly. We can plan together, we can respond to interests, we can benefit from the knowledge of the care staff about the grandfriends, the people that they're with, that they understand and know, and they can benefit from our knowledge of the children so that we can plan very well together. It's relational. We have regular, frequent interactions with the same participants, and it's therapeutic. The movement, relationships, it's cognitive, sensorial, emotional, physical. They learn from and with each other, and the children are learning from lived and living experiences. And an example here of how we've been able to devise, we've joined the exercise class that the OTs and the physios at the home do. And working together, we've created a program where we do different kinds of activities, which have different actions and movements, which give different therapeutic benefits to both the children and to the residents, and putting together a program of things that you could do, which are freestanding and sitting, which we can do together, which we can do in threes. We have the opportunity to vary the program each week. We do it with music, so we'll sing different songs, we can do different movements, but this is because we can work together. And I just added another slide here to show how not just as an exercise class, but here working with different care staff. We've been working with a different team. We again looked at, sorry, the book a day it happened to be what we were reading about in our weekly readings through the Bible, the Jewish Bible, and taking a story that's in there. You don't have to be limited by, it's not by some spiritual element or by a factual story. You can take anything that comes to mind from these stories. And here we were looking at exploring senses, because there was a description of the clothing of the high priest in the temple. And we took the idea of fabrics, of textures, looking at different colors, different feels. We enjoyed this. We made puppets that we would then be able to use at the upcoming festival, Carnival Festival of Purim. And then we looked at what those would be therapeutic, what would the benefits would be. We looked at the resources that we wanted, and we took pictures, and we looked at different kind of fabrics from different countries and different embroidery designs. And at the end, we could ask the volunteers, the care staff, and the nursery staff, and the children what they'd enjoyed, what they had thought the benefits would be. And I didn't know whether, Brianna, this would be something that would be of use to you, because you were asking about different planning formats. So this is what we've been using. Okay. Challenges. Well, it's been quite difficult for some people to actually understand what we've meant by intergenerational, and that has been a challenge. And that's something that, you know, coming on the course, the ICIP course, helps us to have the language, to have the examples, to actually understand all the different layers and meanings of intergenerational, so that we can share that with the people that we're working with. Then there were various issues around, one of the other benefits, which I forgot to mention, is that, of course, for the home, they have the benefits of having their staff's children on site, and they don't lose their staff. It helps with retention and recruitment and the quality of staff, because if they invest in their staff, they don't want them to leave when they have to go on maternity leave, and then they can't bring they've nowhere to look after their child, to look after them. So we have actually opened a baby room, and we take children from age 3 months. Now back to challenges. So there are going to be issues around cohabitation, about things like sharing space, about relationship as well, and about ownership. But, you know, you can work around all of these. We had a lot of anxiety over safeguarding issues. There were people who actually seemed to think that we were going to put our children in the care of the residents. And there were other people who thought that the grandfriends were somehow going to be looking after the children, and explaining that that actually is not what we're doing. Everybody, all the staff who are responsible for the children, that's their responsibility. If you're in the earlier setting, you're not responsible for the residents and for your grandfriends, and that, you know, vice versa. But it does mean that the care staff can't just suddenly disappear when we do a program. They have to be there, because if there was an accident, if there is a need, you have to have someone that you can work with. So it has to be an equal sense of responsibility. There's always anxiety about issues of aging and death and dying. I have to say that we have not experienced any issues around it in the 5 years that we've been open. I think that a lot of the problems with these issues are personal ones, and they're the issues that are put onto the children. Lack of people power is a big problem, because actually you need more people, and you do need people who understand that they are here to do this not for their own self needs, to satisfy their own needs. Particularly with volunteers, they're actually there to support the residents and the children. And lack of training, and that's something that I'm hoping we have dealt with now, because Apples and Honey Nightingale is now an education and training centre, which is accredited. It's approved by NCFE, and as of last week, our certificate in intergenerational education and care is now an accredited qualification. And we have 3 levels of qualification there. I mean, they're all at level 3, but we have 3. We have an award, we have a certificate, and we have a diploma. And we are going to start rolling out that training course in January. And we'll share more about it in March, Bella, and very happy to share with anyone who wants to know more about it. And do you have and my first question, which I would like to know, is, would there be, how do you feel, and you don't have to answer it now, but how would you feel you could adapt the idea, the intergenerational activity, well, no, not, yeah, that you had, that you did, you raised, and that we put in the chat at the beginning. How do you think you could adapt that to co-location? That was my question, and I'm not sure you've got time to answer it now, but if anybody wants to volunteer.
I think for mine, so mine was young adults volunteering in the gardens of older people that were unable to maintain their gardens, and I think one of the programs that's down south that we're just starting to do is home share. So to actually have younger and older people living together that could do activities like that would just so co-located home share for me would be beautiful. Yeah,
I just thought of an example that would be really, I could see being part of the one that I gave an example for, but it would be in a community space where people could be together and take part in different activities, but still go home in the evening. But it would mean that there would be more of that happening in the community between generations, and I think it could happen easily, if there was different spaces where people could interact. And I know that someone gave the example of cookies and milk and they'll come. I think it was Matt Kaplan, but I think it's like one of those things that if the space is there and there's something to attract people, they will come. It's not the same as what you've explained, Judith, but it's similar.
Yes, like a community hub. You're not living there together, but absolutely. And I'm really excited because I just, again, it's all very recent, just got permission from the home to give us a space within the home that will be dedicated to our intergenerational program, because we've had to just fit ourselves around space, but that's fine. And I have asked for permission. I'm waiting now for the rates to go down for us to open it up to people outside of their home and the nursery. So that would be brilliant. Absolutely.
There's been a lot of interest across Scotland this year from different NHS facilities and nursing care homes to use their hub as the place, maybe one of the rooms or their centre place, as a place where maybe young mums can go along with antenatal clinic or young mums and toddlers. So there's more interest in it now, Judith.
I think it's fantastic. I think just at the right time. Is that not right, sir? Thank you. I mean, Lois, I don't know if you want to, or Amaya.
Yeah, I was just going to say, well, the example that I gave was children in a care setting, similar to the things you've described, Judith. But I was also thinking, whilst you were talking, about day centres and places where older adults who don't particularly need a lot of care like you provide, but could still we could still have these co-located schools or nurseries, and I suppose that relates to sort of what Bella was saying as well about kind of community spaces that are available for both older and younger services. So yeah,
it reminds me also of one of the examples that Lorraine has given in the past of from her Winston Churchill travels in America, whereby a school that it was overfull and didn't have enough classrooms, and the care home that actually had space because there weren't enough people in, that they would actually have one of those rooms would be the classroom, and that was actually in there. I just think it's such a brilliant idea, and I have actually suggested it to our care home, so I hope that it's going round in their heads. Yeah. Anyway, I know that I don't remember whether it's an hour and a half, 2 hours, you know, I could talk forever, but that's not the point. Is there anything, do you have any other thoughts? Is there anything else that you would like to say or that you want to think about to raise, or any questions? Do you feel that I have covered co-location for you? Okay, good. I'm glad to hear it. I wanted to end with one picture. This was last week. So, you know, I said that we take the themes from the Bible. Well, we have just finished reading, and we're starting again to read. The Jewish Bible goes from creation to the death of Moses. And then we start again. We do it it's a cycle. It's great. It's like the cycle of the days of the Sabbath. You know where you are in time and place. So the second week, first we have creation, then we have Noah, then we have the Tower of Babel. As you can see, we have certainly had a lot of fun with our Tower of Babel here. And I've just shared this one picture, but the same day, in the same session, because it was Diwali at the same time, we had a Diwali dance, and the children all told the story of Diwali with little puppets who went round and acted it out. We had a competition to see who could build the tallest Tower of Babel. And as you can see, it got very heated.
Judith, you do absolutely amazing work. There's never a time that I would ever get fed up listening to you. It's fantastic. And do you know what I think gets me all the time about intergenerational work is the impact, is those stories. And when you talked about the stories, every one of us could totally connect with what was happening in that picture, in that story. And then when you go to the challenges, you think, how can these challenges be when people can understand that? It's like you just want to have those stories all the time, those pictures, to be able to brainwash people to understand the full impact in it. It's just, yeah, it's incredible. Well done, well done.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
You have to see it. The problem is that people do not get it unless they see it. And we need to somehow get it out there, because it is the most amazing thing. And I do, like I said before, I do think this can have societal impact. It can make such a difference. My husband is one of the doctors at Nightingale, Hammerson. And as it happens, they have social prescribing. So there are people who on their prescription, it will say, remember to take them to come to the because they themselves have said, this is what we want. This is what is giving us meaning in life. And this is what is making us feel well. We don't feel depressed. We don't feel lonely. We feel we are part of society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for sharing.
Well, thank you for joining me. Okay. And thank you for remembering to record.
Could we maybe take a wee picture? Would you mind if we, Bella, could you take a picture so that we can share it and we can stick it up on the ICIP? Just before we go, is there any questions regarding the course? Are you quite happy with going through the course? You've got no questions that you want to ask or anything? No, fantastic. Okay, thank you very much. And Amaya, just in case you didn't pick up, GWT is having a conference in Glasgow on the 8th of March next year. It'll be face-to-face. And Mariano Sanchez is going to be coming over to join us. Mariano, you'll have heard of Mariano, who's one of the professors that's done a lot of work in intergenerational work. So just in case you had the opportunity to come over, you'd be very welcome to come to the conference as well. Be lovely to see you.
And you can visit Apples and Honey Nightingale.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. Okay.
Okay, can everyone smile?
Oh.
And wavers, just smile, and we'll go and take a photograph, right? Okay, one, smile, and another one, and that'll be us. Yeah, that's okay.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much, Judith.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Have a good evening, everyone.
You
Bye-bye.
too.
Thanks.